Right now, let's go ahead and get started, and I'll introduce our first speaker, Mr. Ron Sokol. Ron is my counterpart over in Texas City, and he's a good friend as well. He has his BS in safety science from Indiana University of Pennsylvania. He's a certified safety professional. He's a professional member of the American Society of Safety Engineers. His work experience includes approximately 10 years with the Bechtel Group of companies on various projects around the United States and abroad. He's currently president and CEO of the Safety Council of Texas City. He's been there since 1990. I thought you'd been there longer than that. He has numerous awards. He's been nominated and awarded the Safety Professional of the Year for the Gulf Coast, as well as for the Region 3, which includes Texas, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. He's a good friend and a mentor over the years. I looked to him when I first started at ISTC, and glad to have him here talking today. He's going to share a little personal experience with you guys. Ron?
I came over here in 1990. We got started in Texas City in 1987. I was on the first curriculum group to put together, I guess, a precursor to the Basic Plus. And I came over here and did a presentation, and we wanted to share some of the success that we had in the Safety Council network with this area, and you've done a great job over here. I wanted to talk a little bit. I've been in the safety business. I'm in the 32nd year of being in the safety and health business. And, when I was in college, you'd always go through some statistical information. And, back in 1970, OSHA came into existence. 35 people a day were being killed in occupational injuries. It's unacceptable. And, as you study this type of information, it's a statistic. But many times the statistic has to become real to you. And from my safety background, I was working a large construction project in 1980, and we had an ironworker fall, subcontractor fall 145 feet to his death. And my job was to go out there and secure the scene, cover the body, clean up the mess, and deal with the family. And all the training I got in school never prepared me for that. And it changes you. And when you experience things like that, it changes you and it causes you to take action. And I come here today to talk about a personal experience that is even more compelling than what I experienced in 1980 when I had to deal with that first fatality. How many of you here have teenagers at home? Okay. Or grandkids that are teenagers? How many act like teenagers? A few there. And the story that I'm going to tell has really compelled me to be a face and a spokesperson for our topic today with this K2 and Spice. My wife and I have been blessed with 3 children, and first one, no problem. Daughter, never an issue. I mean, just if all kids were that way, you'd have 100 of them. Second one, no problem. Good kid, very sound, and then I come to my third son, who's 17 right now. But when he was 16, he started to get involved in some things that parents really are concerned about, and that's issues with drugs and alcohol. And he knew enough through his upbringing and his church bringing that he wouldn't dabble into any type of illegal drug, but through his high school, he became aware of a product that you can buy that was legal. And it wasn't against the law. And he was raised to respect the law, to follow the rules. But you know what? This stuff was okay because they're selling it all over. It must be all right. And that was the first kind of experience that I had had, was probably in the summer of 2008. I'd heard my older son talking about this product called Serenity. And I said, well, what is that? He said, well, it's kind of this kind of legal pot that people smoke, but it does, I don't know, kind of like parsley or something. And that was really the extent of what I was told at the time. And as I come to find out, the sale of K2 and spice, as you're going to hear about, was rampant around the high schools. I'm sure it is here. It is in the Houston area as well. And so I decided to tell my story. And I told it to the Houston Chronicle, and I'm telling it here as well. Well, going back, probably back into April of 2009, or 2009, yeah. My middle son came down and woke my wife and I up. It's probably 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, in a panic mode, and said, something's wrong with my youngest son, John. Something's wrong with John. And we ran upstairs and proceeded to find him sitting on his bed, completely unaware of us even being in the room. And we're having to shake him to get him to even focus on us. And he could have been on the moon. I mean, he really was not even conscious of people being around him as he sat on his bed. And as I was shaking him, trying to get his attention, probably for, as it seemed like, an eternity to me, he really didn't even acknowledge that I was there. And finally, he came to a point of realizing someone was in the room there. And sitting on his bed, I said, what's wrong? What did you do? What did you do? And my older son said, I think he smoked something. He was in the bathroom. And so I went rummaging around his closet there, and I found he had taken a little water bottle and found one of his mom's thimbles, who likes to sew, and being an ingenious kid, he made himself a little pipe. And he filled that pipe up with one little bit of K2 spice. Now John had some other medical situations, and he was taking some medication in addition for a medical condition. And I believe the synergistic effects of the medication he was on with the K2 and spice caused him to experience some very severe symptoms from this. Once I got his attention, he had pointed over to his closet where I found the pipe, and I found a packet. It was XXX is what it said. I'd never seen such a thing before. From that particular point, he began to go into almost tremors and seizure type for probably about 10 minutes, where he just shook. We proceeded to take him out of the room, and my wife was trying to deal with him. We got him kind of situated. That was followed by probably violent vomiting for about the next half an hour. He seemed to have stabilized a little bit. We were contemplating whether calling 911. He seemed to stabilize from that, and that was preceded by severe headaches, and we stayed up with him for the rest of the night. Now, John's story was such that he'd gotten so violently ill from this that it was nothing that he had done again. He had said, I don't know what happened because my friends didn't experience the same set of symptoms. And herein lies some of the problems, and that you're going to hear about today with this material. And that, the synergistic effect of a medication he was on could have affected that. The concentration that he could have gotten within the packet that he bought could have been higher than what his friends had. And but I'm glad to say that he has realized, and he's one of the fortunate ones, that he's okay. Sad to say, I was searching the internet and began doing these type of outreach things with Loretta, and came across a lot of different information on K2 and spice. This one was written March 7, 2011, and I just want to share about the first two paragraphs here. It says, David Roga loved the Packers. He had a number 4 tattoo for Brett Favre on his right shoulder. He planned to add a number 12 for Aaron Rodgers. He played football until he broke his leg as a sophomore in high school. He often made the trip with his dad to Lambeau Field from his home in Indianola, Iowa. David Roga dreamed of seeing the Packers win the Super Bowl. He didn't get the chance. Last June, he left a high school graduation party, returned home, and took his own life. David Roga was 18 years old. His parents, Mike and Jan, blamed themselves, saying it really made us look deeply at ourselves. Mike, his dad, said how terrible parents we must have been not to have seen this in our son. 2 days later, David's girlfriend, Carrie, came up with a confession. On the day he died, she said David had been smoking a synthetic marijuana called K2, also known as spice. David's parents had never heard of it. Carrie hadn't either, but when Mike Roga called the police, he began to learn about an herbal blend sprayed with chemicals that mimic the high of marijuana. It's marketed as incense, but it's nothing like the stuff that makes your kitchen smell like potpourri. The article goes on and it says, reported by the postgame.com, shows K2 may be on the rise in the athletic population, not only at various levels of amateur sports, but also in professional sports as well. One NFL veteran said, I go straight weed during the off season, but in season, I then go to the K2 because they don't test for it. Therein lies one sad story. The second one I just want to share to you briefly came out a little closer to home in Dickinson, Texas, which is just a neighboring suburb of Texas City. November 16, 2000, my 2 children, ages 9 and 3, found my mother deceased in the bathtub of our home. The first officer on the scene was from the Galveston County Sheriff's Office. He asked me questions I had no answers that gave any explanation for her sudden death until he asked me about drug abuse. I was quick to inform the officer that she had been smoking Serenity Now, Kush, and other herbal licensed products for the last 2 to 3 months. He searched her room and found numerous, over 100 packages in different places around her bed. The lead investigator arrived shortly after. He was informed of my mom's heavy use of this substance. He asked me if I'd noticed any difference in her mood, health, behavior, etc. The only changes obvious to me was a dramatic weight loss, 30 to 40 pounds in a short time frame, and what appeared to be a nasty upper respiratory infection that had been present for the last month or so and had progressively gotten worse. I mentioned to her that I thought it was the stuff she was smoking. She swore it wasn't, but refused to go to the doctor. He then matter-of-factly told me that my explanation of her smoking habit, having the amount of packaging in her room to prove she was smoking in excess, and her recent lung diseases, he was certain that she died from this, quote, legal marijuana known as K2 or spice. The autopsy was complete and I spoke with a medical examiner. He confirmed that she suffered both cardiac and respiratory arrest, which order is unclear, but they caused each other. He also stated that he was certain that it was the result of JWH-018. They found no other significant illness to cause her death otherwise. So this is what we're up against. We're up against the substance that is being sold in our communities that our young people and even older people are smoking, that is playing Russian roulette with their lives. So we're going to inform you today about the substance, hopefully make you aware of it, increase your awareness level that we can do something about it. my story with you.